Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild countryside of Scotland. And today we've come to this cool little village of Cortachy, which is just basically at the foot of the Angus Glens here in Scotland. And it's such a picturesque little village. I thought it's cool to come and document some of the history, because there's some cool history in the little woodlands and stuff down by the old bridge here, which is actually at the old castle gate for Cortachy Castle. And in the autumn it's just so beautiful here because the colour of all the leaves. Cortachy is set in the middle of kind of like a forest environment and it just looks amazing. So what better place for an adventure, folks? There's so much old like estate history in places like this. All this land at one time was like run by the Cortachy estate. It still is, but there's not so many folk kind of like work at the estates, and now the estates are long past their stage when they were thriving. It's almost kind of in its final days. Even like Cortachy Castle at one time would have been stayed in by like the laird and lady of the estate, whereas now I believe like Cortachy Castle's actually rented out. So that shows you the difference in the Scottish estates nowadays. So yeah, just check it out, folks. There was extreme weather recently, but luckily the leaves are still clinging on to the trees. And wow, just what a scene it is down here. It's just a small little village, so the bridge and stuff's just around the corner, and there's a wee church and stuff here. And then there's like the burial ground next to the church. But an interesting thing, like here at Cortachy, there's actually the burial ground for like the main people of the estate is actually at the other side of the river, and that's often an interesting little explore as well. Oh wait, look at these grand gates here. At one time that's obviously taking you into the grounds of Cortachy Castle, and this is the grand massive old gates. This is some of my favourite gates, like at a Scottish castle, with the little houses and the pillars. And at one time there was probably like a gatekeeper kind of boy lived there, and they would have probably opened and shut like the gates when the laird and lady arrived, maybe from business like up and down the country. This is the gate into the little Cortachy cemetery there and the wee church. And I love the style, even these gate posts, folks, it's so cool, check it out. The carving of the stone, the detail, kind of all that's built at a time when they really cared for like the architecture. They wanted to make everything special. It wasn't just a plain stone building they made. Check this out. This is so cool, folks. It's got the high pillars with the arch above the driveway, and it's like a grey sandstone almost. It would be so cool to live in a house like that, because at this side it's amazing. At the other side the house window basically looks out over the river. Check it out, folks, all this is chained up and locked now. I think they had a lot of bother with like members of public just walking right down like into the private grounds before. I can see now they've got security cameras and stuff at the gate. There's maybe like people actually living in these gatehouses now. They're so lucky to have a view like this. Check out this river, folks. Wow. See, this is what I'm saying, why it's one of my favourite houses around, one of my favourite gate lodges. Imagine just looking out your bedroom window and looking down into the river. You could almost just cast your fishing rod out for where you're sitting. There's a massive stone down here in the river as well. And I'm sure it was called the Devil's Stone. And the old story went on the estate that when the river rose above the stone, it was a sign the laird of the estate had died. And for years and years it was like, well, that was like the folklore of the area and the estate. Like often when the laird died, the river would rise up above the level of that stone there. But there has been storms recently that I've seen when the laird hasn't died and the water's been above this stone. And actually a couple of years ago the water was so ferocious here that the stone moved, that massive big stone down in the river. It used to actually be in a slightly different position sitting there. But in Scotland here, when it's stormy, the conditions just get so crazy that the rivers are just washing in and out of their path. Some days you would get whole trees and stuff coming down here. What a mad scene, folks. Anyway, I'm going to push on up here. This has just been one take so far. It's a bit of fun, folks. We're taking a wee walk through a little Scottish village, taking in the history along the way. The old estate graveyard's over here at this side. Just check the colour of these beech trees here. It's a magical forest scene. Cortachy's actually got some cool walks as well. It's like a countryside walk. You can go way up that way, about 1.5 miles, and then it takes you back round to the car park, roughly where I started this video. This is the Cortachy sign, but we'll go up the road here because there's a cool little fountain. It must have been, I can't mind, I think it's 18 something. We'll take a look, folks. Ancient history. Check this out, folks. 1858. Look at that. September 23. A and B. 1858. And just look at the colour of these leaves floating in the clear water of this fountain. At one time the water must have trickled down in through there. I don't know, it looks like that bit there might be worn from the water dripping on it over the years. And then look at the way these stone benches have been built. Maybe for the local folk to come up here, they could take a rest, get a drink and sit on the seat, and they would just be taking in this whole atmosphere of the glen, the wee Scottish roads. This was maybe like a mud track even back then. So cool. This is the gate on the right here that takes you on the forest walk, but we'll save that for another day, folks, because I'm wanting to look at the old historical nuggets at this end. But look, this gateway was put up in 1960 by David 12th Earl of Airlie as a small tribute to his grandmother Blanche, his mother Mabel and his wife Bridget, who all did so much for the Cortachy estate. Wow, it's cool to document this though, folks. Keep that wee nuggets of Scottish history alive. Share it with the world. Yeah, I'm just thinking the best route to go in here now. Looks like there is a gate here. Oh, but it'll go around the end of the wall here. This little track, I think. I'm not sure where it takes you, but we'll head on in because this is where the cemetery is. I'll go this direction. Look at the size of some of these ancient trees, folks. Massive. Probably planted hundreds of years ago, back at the time when the estate was in its prime. Often they would have like 10 gardeners or more on an estate like this. A special thing about this estate as well here at Cortachy, my grandfather was actually the forester here, so he would have actually tended to these trees and maintained this area at one time. So it's cool to have that little bit of family heritage as well, tied in with this local area. And look, here we are. We're at the graveyard, folks. The craziest of adventures once again. Wow, look at this, there's old, I don't know if they're natural stones or if they've been dumped there from a construction. This has got an amazing little iron gate on it with some crazy detail. There's another interesting grave in this graveyard as well. There's a grave in here for the gentleman which the early monument was built for. Oh, I'm seeing loads of little fungi and stuff in this forest, look at that. And look at this one, folks, right there. But yeah, the early monument's a local massive monument on the hill here in Angus, and it can be seen from miles around. And it was built in memory of this gentleman which is buried here. So this is another kind of link into a couple of bits of history from the Angus area. Look at this, folks, the way these gates are made. There's so much detail to them. Even look at the little handles here and stuff. Whoa, the spider webs just right across in front of here. I can just see them all. They probably don't even come out on the camera. Yeah, this is so cool, folks. In the background, you can hardly see it because of the trees, but Cortachy Castle over there, it's actually obviously privately rented nowadays. Like I said earlier in the videos, you can't really be going and walking about in there. Like, I believe it's some sort of artist, because I think there's a lot of like art pieces within the grounds of it nowadays. So this memorial is to David William Stanley, 9th Earl of Airlie, and he's a real kind of legend because apparently he fought in like 4 wars, and sadly kind of his life was lost within one of those wars. Like, the detail of the stone carving, it's such a special grave. Wow, the stone carving's almost like eerie. You can see his uniform and his badge. He's got his sword by his side, folks. Check that out there. When you see that, you almost just expect that hand to move, or the head just to turn around. The detail, the stone carving, it's so cool. Even the shoes, just look at that. Yeah, little things like that, it's what makes little adventures like this worth it. And the stone carving on a tomb like that is just mind blowing. Even this one, some of them's hard to read unfortunately, but it's quite a cool design. Yeah, look at that, folks. There's actual hands holding the cross up. I think it's angels. See, I didn't even notice that detail there. That is interesting. So well done. Unfortunately, the face and stuff's off of there now with the Scottish weather. When it's rainy and frosty, it just chips away at the top layer of like any stone. Yeah, I love that as well. David Graham Drummond. It's interesting just to see, look at that stone carving up on the roof there, folks. Everything was built so special and so detailed. Anyway, let's head on round. There's not a lot of like graves in this graveyard, but it's interesting to see that one in particular, because it's a special grave for the Angus area and the history of the Angus area. Maybe one day in the future, pretty soon, we'll have to take a walk up to the Airlie Monument, because I think last time I went up there on an adventure, it was when Storm Arwen or something was on the go. Me and the channel DJ went up in the snow when the wind was totally blowing through. There you go, folks, that's Cortachy Castle in the background there. It's actually a stone built castle with a render on it, the white, which we've seen on so many like abandoned mansions and houses and stuff on adventures. All that falls off the surface of the stone eventually, but Cortachy Castle's a great example of what the castle would, or like what the big house looks like if it's maintained. It's so cool to see a massive white castle like that. It's just a special thing. It's almost a fairy tale scene. And there's another little historical detail that we're about to look at along here now. Look at this, folks. This must have been like so the old estate track could pass under the main road. 1867 it says up there, and that must be the family crest in the middle, because I believe that's the same symbol that we saw on the water fountain up the road. Look at the way the ivy's just coming down from the forest above. The trees are just kind of, probably like the roots are right underneath all this stonework and stuff. It's amazing that trees stand there. And just check it out, folks, we're under the main road. Oi! A cool echo in here. It's an unusual tunnel because it's actually wider at the top than it is at the bottom, which is a rare thing. I'm not sure if it's actually been redone. No, I don't think it has. I was looking at the stonework there, folks, just to try to figure it out, like, but it's an unusual little tunnel. And then this is us kind of at the corner of that forest environment. Some of the trees in here are just so big. Hundreds of years old, folks. I think the main castle garden used to be really well maintained and kind of looked after by all the gardeners, but most recently I believe it's overgrown. There's areas which used to be absolutely beautiful, like styles of garden from all over the world, all in one place, rare plants and flowers which will still be there, but I think it's just all kind of like overgrown and not kept as well anymore, which is sad really, but so many Scottish estates, that is just what happens. Sometimes we explorers, or documentation of history on videos like this, is the only way the history stays alive. So it's cool to do these wee videos exploring. I love just to see the wee nuggets of history like that. And even if I've been somewhere before, it's crazy how the places just change. And it's probably been maybe a year and a half or 250 videos ago or something since I was here, and it's just crazy to come back and see it. Yeah, it's been cool, folks. Maybe one day when there's a storm, we'll have to come and document the river here and see if it's above the big Devil's Stone. Look at this, folks, there's like acorns here falling off the tree. We'll take one last look over here, folks. We're taking it all in. It's been a cool adventure. It's been fun just to see what we have seen. I still think this house here is like one of my favourite lodges. If you could stay in there and look out that window to the river, it would just be like just such a magic scene out your window, folks. Another couple of weeks, maybe even by next weekend, most of these leaves will be off the trees, because the weather we're getting now is a lot more autumny, a lot colder, a lot more wind and rain. And yeah, if somebody has bought these houses, shout out to you. I ken these houses did get renovated a couple of years ago. Look at the detail here, even on the stone pillar at the end here. And it's quite cool the way they've done it. Look at this, folks, this is the local notice board. See what it is. Community Council elections 2022. Cortachy SWI silent auction 28th of October. That was last night, folks. Yeah, cool. That gives the world a little glimpse into a little Scottish glen village. Pretty much just in the middle of a wild Scottish landscape. It's just a wee community in a little historical settlement. But it's been cool to see what we've seen in this adventure, folks. I'm going to end it here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with the next one.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. And damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date, you're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight, don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase, so catch me if I fall. Praying that this night's gonna last. You got it all on tap, I'm loving your vibe, always have your back. We like all the same tracks, listen all night in the sheets all black. Said I'm falling fast, don't remember life before you, that's fact. I feel good, you look great, I I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if